Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to ChannelBK. My name is Brian. Top 20 movies of 2022. A little earlier than I expected this year, but I've done all my catching up that I've needed to do. I will say, I guess really the only shout out that I'm going to do, honorable mention, is All the Beauty and the Bloodshed. I'm not saying this movie would have or wouldn't have made my list, but this was really the only movie that I was going to look forward to seeing, but with the schedule of it, I thought I was going to be able to see it, but then things didn't really work out. But I am hopefully ahead of schedule, and the Oscar nominations will be out by the time this video goes up. So not the worst timing, but we're finally here. We've caught up. These are my top 20 movies of 2022. These are movies that came out in the States January 1st through December 31st, 2022, limited, not limited, whatever. So obviously there's movies on here that came out a little bit of time and then opened wide. So 20 is the Fabelmans, Steven Spielberg movie, obviously, which is kind of a look into his life. And, this is a movie that, from the perspective of it being about movie making, I'm a sucker for it. But in terms of a Steven Spielberg movie, I actually thought it was really well done. It was not straight to the point, but definitely the more focused Steven Spielberg movie than we've seen probably recently. And the source material obviously is close to home. And I thought it was really well done. And it wasn't super Steven Spielberg-y, but some little quirks in there were nice. And it was a really solid film overall. Number 19 is Turning Red. It's crazy to think this movie came out so early this year, but I was very on the fence with this movie. I was not really looking forward to it, and it ended up being a great little hit from Pixar and Disney. It obviously has a lot of the same characteristics that other things have when it comes to the whole, perspective and a lot of the elements. But I think for a movie that's doing what it's doing in the way it's doing it, I think it's done very well. And it's done so in a way that I think it's charming and fun too. 18 is Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. This movie is just so adorable and just so pure. Kind of like the Paddington movies in a way. It's wonderful. And it's crazy to think that something that is not really relevant has become relevant again, and it's wonderful, and it's very well done. Number 17 is Fire of Love, one of my favorite documentaries of the year. It was shot beautifully, obviously all the footage being from the couple, but just the way it was put together and just what the movie was about. Like it clearly was about them and just what drove them. It with all the stuff with the volcanoes as well. But it was such a beautiful story, and it was so sad to see what happened and just the way it kind of becomes that, but to see the journey they take is wonderful and beautiful. Number 16 is The Menu. This is a movie, like a lot of movies that came out this year, about a very specific topic. However, I think the topic in here was done with a little bit of subversion, the way it was on the nose at some moments. It never felt obnoxious to me. It felt like the movie was not trying to hit home yes, this movie's about something. I think it focused more on the awkwardness and the vibe and the energy and the performances of what's going on versus I think what the topic was. And that's why I really liked it. It didn't seem to be just the rich are bad, blah, blah, blah. And then even with movies that are coming out now that are mainly focused on COVID stuff, the fact that it was just a quick line, because it is historical, sadly, it works. And I think this film does what it needs to do, but it does it in a way that it's aware that it's self-aware, but it does it much better. 15 is The Northman. I'll say the first 30 to 40 minutes of this movie were excellent. I loved it. And then I think the rest of the movie kind of narrowed out. But honestly, I think this may be my favorite Robert Eggers movie, to be honest. And I know that's upsetting because it's so mainstream feeling, even though I don't really feel like it's completely mainstream. But, you know, he always joked that it's just The Lion King, but with Vikings. And I really like the portrayal. I love the camera work. I just love the way it's such a Robert Eggers movie, but he's doing something that's a little different in terms of storytelling and just from the perspective of these people. And it's done very well. 14, probably the most divisive movie of the year, Babylon. I don't know. I love this movie. I don't know what it was. And the energy was just so amazing. And I loved so much of the camera work and the way it definitely felt like Damien Chazelle on crack. Like it definitely was this, it's like Whiplash, but like times 30 with like the editing and the music and the performances and everything. I get it. There are things about this movie I can understand why people don't like the movie, but it worked for me and it was fantastic. 13, another It's About Something movie, Triangle of Sadness. Wasn't really expecting the movie to be this way. Again, I think the movie can be on the nose, but I also think it's more of, again, like the menu, I think they're very aware that it's about, you know, the rich and all that. And, but I just think the way that they do it feels a lot more like an experience versus like, yes, I get it. Again, it's something where it's uncomfortable, it's awkward. I think the part with Woody Harrelson on the boat was one of my favorite scenes in a movie all year. It was fantastic. Yes, it's the puking movie. There is puking. But then the movie turns into something else entirely, and I loved it for that. Number 12, Causeway. This movie, you know, when we talk about movies that do something one way or do something another way, this movie is exactly what it is. But it does it so well. Brian Tyree Henry, Jennifer Lawrence, excellent. I've not seen too many things with Jennifer Lawrence besides the bigger movies. Obviously, she's been around now for quite some time. But I was so happy to see her in a role like this because it just felt so different to see her more restrained and more kind of not relaxed, but like not giving such a big performance. It feels low-key and understated, but what she does, like especially the way it opens, is gut-wrenching and just really hard to watch. And then just the rest of the movie and the way it flows and the characters, it's so sad, but it feels so authentic. But then it's not doing something crazy. It's just character work, and I love it for that, and it's done very well. And at number 11, another documentary, Tony Hawk Until the Wheels Fall Off. I love Tony Hawk. I feel like I've talked about it a lot on all of my channels where I said, you know, Tony Hawk is like a big inspiration for me. I've always wanted to skate, and obviously Tony Hawk being kind of the main celebrity in that camp, I was always excited to know stuff about him or to see him skate. And so this documentary does a really good job breaking down his career in a way that I feel like is very honest and upfront. It doesn't kind of beat around the bush. And there's certain moments from some of these interviewees that are some of the most gut-wrenching things I've seen all year. Like, it's such an emotional documentary. And revealing, too. At number 10, top 10, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. Let me tell you, when I say the last 3 minutes of this movie fucking wrecked me. Like, god damn. This was Guillermo doing an adaptation of Pinocchio, and I only wanted to see it because of that. When can I go out on my own? I wanted to see this one, obviously, because it's Guillermo, and boy, oh boy, was I happy, because it was just fantastic. Voice acting was great, animation was great, the way it looked, it just felt so creepy, but fun, and then again, fascist Italy, Pinocchio, crazy crossover of 2022. At number 9, we have All Quiet on the Western Front. I'm a big sucker for war movies, and I think a lot of times I go into war movies with a certain expectation. I went into 1917 with an expectation, and the gimmick was fine, but my main problem with the movie was I wanted it to feel like a World War I movie. And it had the looks, and it had the feeling, but it just felt like a random war movie. And the structure of it kind of felt very like, okay, go to this famous British guy running. Famous British guy running, to a point. Obviously, this is based on a book. There's been adaptations of this before. But let me just say that the performances and the way it's shot with such a blistering, like, saturation in the visuals. The scene in the trench, and if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about, is one of, again, there's a lot of fantastic gut-wrenching scenes from this past year, but that scene hurt me so much. And then fucking Cat, one of my favorite characters in a movie, and I was so, like, he was so fantastic, and he looked like Charlie Hunnam, which was really funny. But fantastic movie, and the ending is, again, it's just the way that it kind of circles everything back together and just rounds it off is so hard to watch, but it's fantastic. 8, The Banshees of Inisherin. Martin McDonagh, you've done it again. Colin Farrell, holy shit. Brendan Gleeson, holy shit. Carrie Condon, I didn't realize Mike Ehrmantraut's daughter-in-law was Irish. I'm such an idiot. And then obviously Barry Keoghan. This movie's fantastic. It's well written. The characters are great. It's funny. It's dark. It's beautiful. It's simple. Yet it's fantastic. Number 7, the greatest fucking big budget movie of all time, Top Gun Maverick. There's really nothing to say about this. I was nervous going into it because of the reviews, and I was at least hoping to like it because lately, with Tom Cruise, he's been kind of on a run, and I wasn't a huge fan of the first Top Gun, so going into this, it is Top Gun with some different things here and there, but it's done just perfectly. Like, it is this movie, it's not doing anything else, and I don't think the movie's trying to trick you. It's a legacy sequel, and the character flashbacks, and the Val Kilmer scenes, and even Miles Teller, I thought, had a very interesting turn because we've never seen him act like this. And then fucking Glenn Powell is the man. And then, yeah, Tom Cruise kills it. Like, he comes in swinging, and it's awesome. Number 6. Oh, and the action scenes are fucking amazing. Number 6, X. As I said in my review on Letterboxd, this movie knew the assignment. It's a B movie, it's funny, it's gory, it's sexual, it's over the top, its meanings don't hit you over the head. It's a good way to drive the villain's perspective. And again, it does it in a way where you're not kind of sitting there rolling your eyes. It does everything it needs to do, and it does it so well, and everyone's great in it. And Pearl was great as well, and I can't wait for Maxine. Number 5, I will say my top 5, all 5 of these movies. I think it's the most 5 stars I've ever had in a year. And I'm shocked. Like, these 5 movies are killer. So number 5, this is a recent one. Women Talking. I was shocked that this came from a book and not a play. It feels very much like a stage play. But again, when you go into this movie and you know what it's about and you're, the whole concept of it, it's touchy, but also you're kind of expecting, like, how are they gonna pull this off in a way that you're not kind of like feeling like you're preached to? And you're not. The characters are so complex. The way they go back and forth on everything is super interesting. Again, the movie is nothing more than a lot of just conversations, but every character, I feel like I know so much. Paddington Bear, you're the man. Ben Whishaw, everyone, Claire Foy, Rooney Mara, everyone in this movie was, Jessie Buckley, everyone in this movie was just fantastic. There's things in this movie that I feel like you're going to sit back and kind of go, like, maybe you're nervous. Because again, the topic of the movie is very touchy, but also in a way it could be done very jokingly. Not jokingly, but just embarrassingly. But it doesn't hit you over the head. It's smart, and it's fascinating to watch it unfold. And I think by the time you get to where the ending is and all the characters are where they're at, it makes 1,000% sense. And I cried multiple times. I cried a lot in these top 5 movies because they were so fantastic. Number 4, the Bollywood sensation that hit the States, RRR. This movie did not feel like a 3-hour movie. The structure is fantastic. It's huge. The action scenes are fantastic. The fucking dance number with the song is amazing. This movie is like, watching this, like another film that's in my top 5, it's so envious to watch movies in other countries because America can't pull this off. And RRR did that. Just like number 3, Broker. This film is written in a way where I don't see America being able to pull something like this off. Women Talking is definitely that kind of movie, though, shockingly. Like, I think it's tender. It doesn't feel forced. It feels like what everyone's saying is very truthful. Broker, literally shoplifters, if I saw it and did the list when I should have done it, like after I saw all the movies I want to see, it would have been number 2. That was a 5-star movie just behind 8th Grade. This is a 5-star movie too. It is the same idea of this dysfunctional quote unquote family. Obviously, it's not as depressing and it doesn't end as sad as something like Shoplifters. But again, it just, the way it looks and the acting and just the structure and just how beautiful it feels and just how emotional everything feels and tender. It's amazing. Number 2 is a very different movie than that. On the count of 3, this movie is such an airtight script. It is so hilarious. It is a triggering subject. It is about suicide. And it's, you shouldn't go into it if it is, because there is a lot of jokes about it. But again, I say that and I don't say that as they're like, ha, 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 suicide. That's not the point. This film is a dark comedy. And it's kind of a lot like how I like The Art of Self-Defense. And there's a lot of movies like that have this kind of like humor and wit to it. But the movie kind of extends beyond that and you learn maybe a little bit more. And Christopher Abbott is fantastic. Gerard Carmichael puts in a great performance. And then the whole Papa Roach running gag is hilarious. I love it. But number 1, because I'm a normie, I'm a simple white normie who clearly doesn't have any taste, because all 4 of these movies are in my top 5, but it still couldn't beat a movie like this. The Batman. It's the Batman. My joke all year. Well, it's not the Batman. I get it. We've seen the Batman so much, and I don't envy people, but I also get frustrated being like, but trust me, like, I'd love to hear the discourse because there's so much that this movie does right. And I was shocked that this is my favorite movie of the year because I went into this movie so nervous because I didn't want it to just be another Dark Knight. I wanted it to be just great as its own thing. I think this is tied with it because I think as a Batman movie, this is better than The Dark Knight. As a full-on movie, I think The Dark Knight is better. But just everything about this is just incredible. The way it looks, the way it sounds, the acting, just the unrolling, and the rollout of things, the simplicity, the little moments, the dialogue, everything. It's the Batman. Dun, 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 dun. Okay. But those are my top 20 movies of the year. I'm looking at this list with so much glee, and you do not realize that just a few weeks ago, something like Babylon was in my top 10, or like deep in my top 10. And the amount of movies I've been wanting to watch these past couple weeks and catch up on, or new ones that have been coming out, this list, like The Inspection was on this list at one point. That's out of here. After Yang was on here. That's out of here. So many movies just kept getting knocked out. And I didn't want to discuss them because I wanted to keep it simple with the top 20. But it's here. I'm so happy. Leave it in the comments below your lists. Like, comment, subscribe if you like this. Check out my other list videos. Again, thank you so much for sticking out with me and getting to this list. But now 2023 officially starts. So thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for tuning in to ChannelBK. Peace out, everybody.